Hey everyone, welcome back to episode 3 of Technologically Depressed. And today is, I don't know. I'm not, first of all, it's 4:52 in the morning, uh, Thursday, January 27th. And it's one of those days where I'm not getting a lot of sleep because I just can't. It's not necessarily a bad day, but I also feel like it's important. It's important to celebrate the best times and the worst times. Um, Especially regarding like mental health. You know what I mean? Like celebrate your failures because you've learned something from them. And what better way, like, wouldn't you want to celebrate if you learned something good? And also celebrate the good days because sometimes they are few and far between. So I don't know. I felt like hopping on here. My internet went out. It's still out. Oddly enough, I almost was asleep about 2 hours ago, maybe. I was like right there at the brink of sleep. I think I might have dozed off for a couple of minutes and then the internet went out and what I was watching shut off because, everything's streaming. So the second the silence hit, I woke up. I came to again. And it's odd that I'm not comfortable in silence. Like by myself. Being in silence by myself is quite terrifying sometimes, actually, because you have to deal with what's going on in your brain. Like the thoughts start accumulating and revolving, and I start naturally dissecting the crap out of them. And that's not a good thing because it just, I start overanalyzing things and I start like, hyper thinking about things, and it just becomes a nightmare sometimes. Wide awake in the silence, not being able to focus on one specific thing, but having to focus on a million things that are going on all at the same time in my head, if that makes any sense. And it's unsettling. And so I always like to fall asleep with something on because it just keeps my subconscious busy, right? Even if I'm asleep, I have something on, right? In my head, something is on, and the second that turns off, like if Netflix is playing and one of those like, are you still watching? Do you want to continue watching The Office or whatever pops up? And I'm just like, what the fuck? Wait, hold on. Like where did the calming like noise go that distracts me from the other noise that I'm always just obsessively thinking over in my head? And so it's like, it's a tough spot to be in sometimes because I hate having to rely on something to keep my brain busy from the silence, right? It's almost, it almost becomes addictive in some ways, like some sort of like drug where I have to keep feeding myself noise so I don't have to deal with the problems that I will make. I will create the problems out of small minor things, minor problems that I have going on that I will make even worse and amplify tenfold because there's nothing else playing in the background. Or I don't know if this makes sense to anybody, but I'm sure if you've dealt with this before. It probably does. And so anyway, yeah, right now my internet's been out. I'm tethering to my computer to record and upload this podcast, because that's the internet that I have right now. And I looked online, and it's all, we're sorry, your internet service seems to be out. Estimated return of service is 12 p.m. And I was like, oh, fucking fantastic. So, here I am. I am random scenario. I have like some sort of like skin irritation lately. I know that's really weird. Very random side note. Anyway, enough with that. But yeah, so back to all aboard the mental health train again. It's not been a bad day, and I'm here to celebrate that, because, like I said, sometimes it seems like it's not often that happens. And I know that's just like me convincing myself that everything is just doom and gloom 100% of the time. But, sometimes it really does feel that way. It really does feel drowning. And the reason I'm up, there's nothing more drowning to me than the silence, being with my own thoughts. And I think for years, a big part of the reason why I went so hard on everything that I do work-wise on the internet and creating and stuff was to avoid all of that noise. I mean, having an like ADHD mindset keeps me hopping from one thing to another, but it was almost made worse by the fact that I was trying to block out things that I should have been dealing with. And so doing that over several years, like a long time, you're just suppressing the feelings and you're not dealing with them, and it's unhealthy. And you think that, like, oh, you're doing so good, creating all this content, having a lot of fun, going a lot of places, doing a lot of cool things. But that's just a shell of me, right? Because on the inside of that shell, there's somebody like banging at the door for help because I've locked that person away. And so, like, I feel like the last, I don't know, 6 years of my life was just me avoiding the silence. If I'm go, I'm busy, I created all that busy and all that go. But if I'm always all in on everything, doing everything all the time, I can't be stuck with that silence. And to me, that was always a good thing, For a long time, I didn't really even know what to make of how I was reacting to the silence. Like, I thought that, I don't know, I felt like it wasn't normal for me to feel how I was feeling, but that it was something that I didn't have to deal with because it was just a random abnormality in my life, And the more I packed that away, the more mental clothes I put in the suitcase, the fatter it got, and eventually it was bursting at the seams, and I just kind of lost touch with reality. And I had posted a video on my channel about this where I think I was gone for several months, and the video title was like, "Where the hell have I been?" or something like that. And that video came at a very important realization and turning point in my life where I had two choices prior to making that video, and not like immediately prior, but just that moment in my life. I had two choices, and I was either going to fix things or I wasn't going to exist anymore. It's just the best way to put it, right? That's the most direct I can be right at this moment, with that kind of vague phrasing, but I'm pretty sure everybody catches the drift. And if you don't, well, strap in, because I've got more to share on those topics at a later date. But so yeah, like I said, that moment in time was a turning point, and I decided to turn it around for the better. And I started to do what I needed to do to make myself better. And that big lapse in time that I was away from creating a lot of content was like the best and the worst thing at the same time, right? Because it really did hurt my traction on my platforms a lot. But if I kept going how I was, I can promise you I wouldn't have been here right now, sitting here talking to you. I just know that. And it's funny because going back to what I was saying earlier, I was go, trying to avoid the silence when I really needed that silence at that moment to even start to heal, to start to turn things around and feel better about myself and put myself mentally in a better position to be able to continue to go. And it's easy to slip back into the speeding train of working and ignoring feelings. But like I said, I had to step away for a little bit, and I haven't got my groove back since then. And it's frustrating, because when you thought you had everything just perfect, right? Like, I thought I had a good workflow, I had a good work ethics, I was motivated, I was constantly putting stuff out on the internet, blah, blah, blah. And I don't feel like I've quite returned to that point yet. Maybe I never will. I don't know. And you know what? I don't do as much now, and I'm not making as much money as I was before, but all of that is irrelevant because, again, had I kept down that path, we wouldn't be having this conversation today. And I feel very strongly about that, given where I was at the time. I know that I wouldn't have lasted, because I drove myself to the point that it was literally a do or die situation, whereas either I'm going to do everything I can to try to stay here, or I'm not going to stay here. And I don't mean on the internet. I mean in general, in the world, in life, that kind of grim shit. And I don't regret that time away, and I don't regret the things that I did to try to turn myself around, and I don't regret the struggles that I still have. But I'll tell you though, avoiding the silence through the internet and YouTube and all the bullshit that comes along with all that was a downfall for me. But then also what I'm experiencing now, trying to get back into things, trying to, stay successful or relevant or whatever the fuck. That's also a struggle for my mental health. So it's like I couldn't win when I was like, when everything was going great. And now that going great, like work-wise, and now that things are going a lot better mentally wise, I can't win on the work-wise. I don't know. It feels like a lose-lose situation lately. But I'm still doing it. I'm still here. I'm still, and part of this whole reason I'm doing this podcast is because I feel like, I'm kind of in my thoughts right now, in the silence, right? This is me dealing with the silence by vocalizing my feelings. Instead of stirring over things and going down rabbit holes in my brain, I'm speaking it into the world. And that to me is an interesting concept because, I'm talking and I'm creating content, but also all these things that I'm saying, if I weren't saying them, I would be repeating them over and over and over again in my head and spiraling from that, because every time a thought is repeated, it just progressively gets worse and darker. And so here I am in the silence, but talking and saying these things out loud, even if I didn't have the means to do a podcast or I just feel like even just sitting on the couch and like saying my feelings to the fucking wall would be better than just stirring over them in my head, in my thoughts. And I like this. This is helpful for me. It really is. And again, old habits die hard because here, I still deal with this problem of avoiding silence. Like I said, I can't even sleep in the silence most of the time unless I take sleeping pills, but I hate those because I feel super groggy in the morning and I can't get out of bed for hours. And so, like, what's the solution there? How do I remedy this problem? I hate the sleeping pills that I have. There aren't even sleeping pills. They're antihistamine because I can't take like a traditional sleeping pill. Melatonin doesn't do anything for me. ZzzQuil doesn't really help. The sleeping pill that I have, the sleep aid that I have really does. But yeah, like I said, it gives you a groggy, hungover feeling in the morning, and I absolutely fucking hate it. And so I don't take it very often, but I do find that I can exhaust myself mentally enough to fall asleep by just throwing a bunch of stimulation at my brain in the form of something on TV that either is, a lot of information coming, something like action packed. I can't really I can't watch anything that's going to make me sad or have any sort of like feeling other than excitement or like what's coming next, because then I'll just start getting depressed if I'm watching something sad, and then I won't be able to sleep. I know this is like a big, long, like run-on sentence, this entire fucking podcast, but hopefully you're sticking with me here. So having something on that just keeps my brain overly stimulated, well, exhausted eventually, and then I will be able to just fall asleep. But again, like I said, my internet went out earlier. As soon as the sound stopped, I came to, and it was HBO Max was all, we can't play this content anymore. It's like, what the hell's going on? And I looked at my router, and the oh shit lights were blinking, like, oh shit, you don't have any internet. So, but you know what? It was actually, I will say that it was waking up when I did, even though I was probably only asleep for like a minute, maybe. Waking up when I did was a blessing in disguise, because, well, first off, I joined on to be a host of something that I had never heard of, or I wasn't familiar with before. Before, like, I don't know what. Anyway, it's called Geek Beacon, and it's a convention, kind of an online seminar convention. I don't know if I'm, excuse me, Nixie, if I'm getting this wrong, but it's dedicated to technology and mental health. And I didn't know the mental health aspect of it. I didn't know any of these things, and trust me, I'm getting around to this. Sorry, I'm on Twitter. So yeah, it's Geek Beacon Fest 2022, and it's dedicated to mental health and technology. And it couldn't have came around at a more perfect time in my life, but that was all a side tangent. As soon as I woke up, I got a reply to a tweet that I had put out from the organizer of this festival, Nixie, and I read it, and I was like, oh, she's like awake super late, so this must be a normal thing. Like, maybe this person is like me. So I'd messaged her. I was like, oh, night owl, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, we started talking about a lot of like mental health things, and like the creator space and how that has an impact. And I think we're going to do a podcast about this either here or during Geek Beacon Fest. So definitely like follow me on social media and stuff. If you don't, I'm assuming most of you are here because of that, but we're going to do a podcast talking about a lot of that stuff. So I'm not going to dive into that here. But anyway, the blessing in disguise was that it's nice to talk with somebody openly about these things and feel like they really understand, right? Because, like, honestly, I can talk to a therapist all fucking day about the things that I deal with, but they don't really understand what I deal with. And not to say that therapy is bad. I'm not actually saying that at all, but it's just, it's hard to feel comfortable with somebody that can't relate to me in certain areas. And so while I think therapy is great, and I definitely recommend it for everyone, really, sometimes the most therapeutic things you can do are communicating and vocalizing how you feel and your thoughts to someone that understands and has lived through it. And honestly, that's why I also do this podcast, because I can vocalize my feelings into the space that this is the community that I'm in. This is the space that I'm in. So being able to feel like it's okay for me to talk about these things, there's been such a negative stigma around talking about mental health and dealing with stress and depression, anxiety, blah, 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 because everything's just all smiles and butterflies on the camera, and everything looks picture perfect in the background and the frames and the B-roll and this and that and yada, yada. And as perfect as you can think the set looks behind who you're watching, you don't even know. It could be a fucking train wreck up here. And people just don't take that in consideration. Like how taxing it is sometimes to have to hide that stuff. But again, we do that to ourselves, but it's a societal thing, and it's been done to us through society, not feeling like it's okay to talk about things, especially men, right? And there's such toxic masculinity surrounding mental health and talking about it and having feelings, because you're supposed to be a man, all that kind of bullshit. But you know what? If you can't share your fucking feelings, what kind of man are you, honestly? I can say that because I used to be in that spot thinking that I can't share my feelings. I have to be strong and like this and that and be so reliable and blah, blah, blah. No, it's okay to have a fucking mental breakdown and have to talk about it and work through it and deal with problems, because life isn't as perfect as it appears on camera, It's really not. I mean, for creators and anybody in the internet space that puts themselves out there, I put myself out there for hundreds of thousands of people. And honestly, sometimes I feel like it doesn't matter. Like nobody would fucking care if I was gone on the internet. Like if I just stopped being on the internet one day, people wouldn't like know the difference. I that's just a dark place that I go to sometimes. But I went off on a tangent and I forgot my original point of this. But I guess to circle things back around, everything looks pretty on camera, but you don't know what people are dealing with. And everything is perfect and smooth and finely edited and filtered and presented to you in a way that makes it look seamless and nonstop, like go, 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 go. You know what I mean? Jump cuts in videos and just boats of information that are scripted, and all of this that I did was because I am deathly afraid of silence. So doing everything, and I don't even know if I'm making sense at this point, but doing everything how I was doing it was to avoid that. And all of that ties into it, you know what I mean? Like making sure that the fucking background is clean, because I know somebody's going to give me shit if there's like a shirt laying on the floor, or if my nails aren't fucking trimmed perfectly, or whatever it may be. And that kind of stuff, or if I say a spec wrong, or if I fucking say something that, like I was wrong about something or whatever, all of that stuff, as thick of a skin as you want to have, or for me anyways, as thick of a skin as I say that I have, is all the stuff that will slowly eat away and become part of those rabbit hole thoughts when it's silent. So keeping up with that pressure to create, to have everything immaculate, to be, so fucking perfect for everybody and everything is fucking heavy. It's really heavy. And I've been making content on the internet for over 10 years now. And that shit adds up. It really does. And I don't think that a lot of people realize the long-term effects of doing this kind of thing for so long. And I don't think that those effects will be realized for quite some time either. I mean, because we have, younger generations that are absorbed in short form video like YouTube Shorts and TikTok and doing, that's even more fast paced than what I do. I can't even imagine. That just seems like a snowball that is going to pick up speed and traction and debris and everything and move so much faster than the course that my mental health has taken over the time that I've been creating content on the internet, because it's so on to the next, go, 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 go. It's way more fast paced, like literally and figuratively, because I mean, the videos are maximum a minute long at the very max. Most of them are 15 to 30 seconds. And that's a whole nother conversation for another time, which we might get into on the podcast that I was telling you about that I'll be doing. But I think this is a good place to wrap this up. I try to keep these episodes a little more digestible, a little shorter than like your hour and a half podcast. But I wanted to get that out there because I wanted to get out the message of silence. Because if you're afraid of the silence too, I hope that you do better than me and find more healthy ways to embrace it. Because it's still something that I struggle with. Like, I don't want to really stop recording right now, because then it means I'm going to have to sit in silence unless my internet working again? I don't know if my internet's working again. I don't think it is yet. So that just means I'm going to have to, I don't know, maybe I'll tether this to my TV so I can watch something else again. But besides the point, I hate the silence. And I just, I wish I could fix that. Like, I wish there was a solution, like an immediate solution. And you know what? Even side note, again, sorry, this podcast is basically just like a tangent of my thoughts. I just realized that like expelling all of these feelings and thoughts to whoever listens has really exhausted me. Like, I am actually tired right now. And this is what I mean. Like, I have just been gymnastics in the brain, pushing out everything, and now I'm tired. But I know that if I fall asleep, it's not going to be long before I wake up because it's silent. And so what I'm probably going to do is just put on like a funny podcast or something and listen to that while I try to get some sleep. Because yeah, it's 5:25 in the morning. And good morning to all of you, or good evening, good afternoon, whenever the hell you're listening to this. But just know that anybody that is listening to this and that has made it this far and is hopefully getting something from this, I deeply appreciate you, because it's hard to find like-minded people. And if you're still around, maybe you're just curious, maybe you deal with the things that I do, or maybe you're here to learn or experience the things that I do, or learn from what I do or don't do. I don't know. Whatever it may be, I appreciate you. And I wouldn't be here without people like you. So thank you for that. And with that being said, I will sign off, and I hope everybody stays healthy and well. And I love y'all. I'll see you next time.